Hi everyone, Ravi this side. Welcome to EnggAdda. Today in this video, we are going to discuss about the AWS Lambda. What is it and how we can deploy our Spring Boot application on AWS Lambda. Everything we are going to discuss in detail. Before going to start this video, let me try to tell you that AWS Lambda is nothing but it is a serverless deployment tool or platform you can say. So in this video, we are also going to see what is serverless deployment. Okay. So everything we are going to see related to the serverless deployment, related to the AWS Lambda, and how we can deploy our Spring Boot application on the serverless platform, which is AWS Lambda. So let's get started for that, and let me try to go to the next slide to discuss more about the serverless deployment first, and then later on, once we have a thorough discussion of this AWS Lambda or serverless deployment, what we'll do, we'll try to create a Spring Boot application. We'll try to create a AWS Lambda function, and we'll try to see how we can do the deployment on that. So everything we are going to discuss here. Let's get started, and let me try to go to the next slide. So first of all, we are going to discuss what is serverless deployment. So you can say the name suggests itself that we don't have to manage the server here. Okay. That means we are going to develop our application. We are going to generate the jar file or zip file out of our application, and then we'll try to deploy it. And we don't have to manage the server with ourselves. The platform will try to manage it out. Okay, the serverless deployment refers to deploying application without managing the underlying server infrastructure. Okay, the server infrastructure would be managed by the cloud provider. Instead, the cloud provider handles the server management, scaling, and maintenance automatically. Serverless architecture allows you to focus on writing code while the provider ensures it runs efficiently, scaling based on the demand. So this is what serverless deployment is, where we don't have to manage the server with ourselves. It will be managed by the providers. Now go to the next slide, and here you can see key features of serverless deployment. So no server management, that we already have discussed. No need to provision or maintain servers. Auto scaling, it will be automatically done by the server provider. Automatically scales with the workload, cost efficient, pay on only the compute time you use. Okay, so we don't have to pay the price of the server's management. We don't have to purchase the server, right? Now, event driven, execute code in response to events such as HTTP request, database change, or message queue event, and it is highly available. Okay, so built in fault tolerance and availability. So we don't have to manage all of these things like scaling, availability. Okay, so those things will be managed by the server provider itself. Now go to the next slide, and here you can see the popular AWS services used for serverless deployment. So we have to use the AWS Lambda. Okay, we have to use the API gateway. If you are going to deploy the front end application as well, then you can use the Amazon S3. You can use for the database. For non-SQL database, you can use DynamoDB. For the SQL database, you can use the RDSDB and others tools like Amazon Step Function and Event Bridge. So those things you can use in totality to deploy your whole application. Here what we are going to do is we are going to only deploy our backend application, and that also without the DB. Okay, so we are not going to use the database here. We are simply going to see how we can deploy our backend application. Okay, so we are going to basically use the AWS Lambda and the API gateway for this. Okay, so let's get started. Let me try to go to the next slide and discuss about the example for flow. So for the backend, this is for whole front-end plus backend application that I have listed here. What is the whole workflow? But in this video, we are going to only discuss about the backend deployment. Okay, so the first of all, what you have to do is you have to create a backend application, and you have to create a Lambda function to handle the backend logic. Then you have to create a gateway where you can, like, user can hit the request or hit your API. It will go through the gateway, and then the gateway will route your user request to the Lambda function that you have created, where you have deployed your backend application. For frontend, you can use S3. For database, you can use DynamoDB or RDS. Or notification, you can use trigger AWS SNS to notify user and service provider. So these are the platforms, or you can say tools, that you can use to deploy your application on the AWS for the serverless deployment. So again, let me try to notify you that we are only going to deploy our backend application, and for that we are going to use the AWS Lambda function and we are going to use the API gateway. How we are going to use, let me try to tell you how the workflow will look like. So here you can see we will try to create a gateway, okay, and user will try to hit the request or API provided by the gateway. That request will be routed to the Lambda function that we created, and we'll try to deploy our application on the Lambda function itself. Okay, so this is the whole flow. So let me try to come out of this slide, and we'll try to create a Spring Boot application, and then we'll try to create the Lambda function on the AWS and gateway on the AWS, and we'll try to see how we can deploy it. So come out of it and go to the let me try to open the IntelliJ here. So just wait for a few seconds. It will take few seconds of time to open it up, and then I can do what is required. So again, let me try to tell you that we are not going to use the cannot create a Spring Boot application here. What we are going to do is we are going to create an archetype project which will by default provide all the things needed to deploy your application on the AWS. So this is what we are going to use. Now, how you can use it out, I will tell you that. So just open your IntelliJ or the ID that you are going to use, and then just go to the file, new, and go to the project, and here you can see the Maven archetype. You can also, like, for some of the videos or for developing a Spring Boot application, we are going to use the Spring Boot. But here what we are going to do is we are going to use the Maven archetype. Why? Because it provides the necessary details that will help us in deploying our application on the AWS Lambda. So that is why we are going to use the Maven archetype. Now, there would be some ways where you can configure, like you can create a Spring Boot application and configure the same, but we are going to use the Maven archetype here. Okay, so just select the Maven archetype and then provide your application name. So let's say it is Spring Boot AWS Lambda, something like that. Okay, now just select the JDK that you are going to use, and then here you can see use internal, or sorry, you have to use the Maven Central, and then here you can search for Spring Boot. Just wait for a few seconds. It will take few seconds of your time to reflect it here. So just search for Spring Boot again, and here you can see the AWS Serverless Spring Boot archetype. Okay, so I'm going to use the latest one, which is AWS Serverless Spring Boot 3 archetype. So just use it, and here you can manage the version. I'm going to use the latest one. Now just create it out and open it in a new tab. So just wait, and it will try to download all the dependency that we have added. Just load it. Here you can see the pom.xml file we are. It will download the things that are required, and then we can start going to do the development here. I will tell you the whole work, the flow of this project, how it is created and how it will try to work. Okay, so don't worry on that. So here you can see it has the dependency Amazon AWS Serverless. It has the dependency Java Container Core. It has the HTTP component client 5. So it has all the required dependency that will use to deploy our application on the AWS Lambda. And here you can see it has excluded the Tomcat server from the web. It has Jupyter and all those things. So don't worry on that. And if you'll go down, here you can see it will try to, when you are going to build your application, it will try to generate a zip file, not jar file. Okay. So this is how it is. And if you want to explore more, you can go to the pom.xml file and try to see. Now if you'll go to the source, and if you'll go to the main Java, here you can see we have two two classes created. One is the application, which is for our application that we created, and another is the stream lambda handler. So this class will try to handle all the request which is coming from the user through API gateway. Okay, so this is for that. And now if you'll go to the controller, here you can see it has already created a controller package where it has also created a controller class which is ping controller, and it has a simple get API which is says ping, and it will try to return you hello world as a pong. Okay, so this is the basic thing. If you want to deploy this application itself and try to test it out, you can do that. Or what you can do is you can also create your own controller service and the repository, DTO class, everything you can create of your own and then try to do it and try to deploy it out. So let me try to create one simple controller here for us, and then in the controller package itself, I will try to create, let's say, test controller, and just let me try to annotate it with @test controller, and just say @get mapping, let's say test, and here it will simply will try to return something, some string like test or something like, okay, something like that, or you can say hello all. So this is a controller that we have created for testing. So again, let me try to tell you that if you want to create your whole application, you can do the same thing here. In this video, we are only going to see how we can deploy our Spring Boot application on the AWS Lambda. Okay, so that is why I'm not going to do a much development here. You can do those things, and you can see I have created one test controller to test it out. So we are good now, and here you can see if you go to the application properties file, it is looking the same. So everything look good to me. Now we are good to deploy our application on the AWS Lambda. So before going to deploy your application on AWS Lambda, what you have to do is you have to create a jar file out of it, or you can say zip file out of it. How you can create it out? You can go to the Maven, go to the execute Maven goals, and here you can do a clean install. Okay, so you can do that. Just run this command, or what you can do is you can go to this Serverless Spring Boot 3 API, go to the life cycle, and here also you can select this clean install and then run it out. So both of the option is fine. Now once it will be completed, the build will be completed, what you can see is here you will see a target folder created, and there itself you have the zip file of your application. Okay, so you can see the target is created. Now if you go down, you can see that this is the zip file for this application. Okay, now this is what we have to go and deploy on our AWS Lambda. So how we can do that? So there comes the picture of AWS. Now you have to have a account on AWS, and then you have to log in it out, and then what you can do is you can create your AWS Lambda here. So you just go to the dashboard or services, anywhere you can go, and then search for AWS Lambda, or simply you can search for Lambda. I think Lambda, yeah, this is the one. Just it says run code without server, so just click on it. So here you can say AWS Lambda lets you run code without thinking about server. Now you can see this, and this is what we have to create. Now just create function, and here you can see author from scratch. Just provide your function name, let's say test function, and here you have to choose the runtime environment, which would be Java 21 that I have selected. Okay, so if you'll go to your application, and let me try to close this one. If you'll go to your pom.xml file, here you will find that we have selected Java 21. So that is why I'm just here you can see Java version is 17, but yeah, we can run it on the here. like when I was trying to create it out, uh, I showed you that I'm just selecting the setting, or you can say like SDK as a Java 21. Let me try to show you. So if we'll go here again, go to the project structure. Here you can see SDK as a Java 21 we have selected. That is why I'm just selecting the Java 21 here itself. Okay. Now we are good, and just create this function. Okay. It will take few seconds of your time to create it out, so don't worry on that. So here you can see creating the function test func, and it is successfully created. Now what you have to do is you can see you have the upload function, upload from. So there you can upload your zip file. Okay, I'm telling jar, but it is zip file here. So what you can do is you can go to this upload and just select this zip or jar file, just upload it. And where you can upload it, you have to go to your application where you have created your Spring Boot application and target folder. Okay, so let me try to go there. I'm inside this project, and then Spring Boot AWS Lambda. Go to the target folder, and here you have to select it out. Just open it, save it. It will take few seconds again to upload it successfully. So just wait for that. Okay, so it says successfully updated the function test one. Now what you can do is you can go to the code and go down. Here you can see runtime setting. Just here you have to provide the handler information. So for that you have to just edit it out. And how you can provide this handler information, let me try to tell you. So here you will go to your application and go to this stream lambda handler. You can see that this is the package name for that. So just copy this out and just replace with this example, and then this is the class name, and the method name is same, which is handle function. So you can see handle request, which is there. Okay, so we are good. Now what you have to do is you have to just save it out. So as per the creation of lambda function, we are good. We have also uploaded our application on that, and now we can test it out. So here you can see the test is there. So go to the test and wait for a few seconds. Here you can see you have to create a new event. So let's say test event and private. Okay, let me try to see if something, yeah, test event, and then look good here, template. Okay, so in the template you have to just select the API gateway AWS proxy. Okay, now here it will come event JSON, and here you can see in the event JSON you have to provide the path. Okay, so we'll do that. So what you have to do is you have to go to the test to test your API, create new event, and then you have to provide the event name, and then just select the template as API gateway AWS proxy. Now go down or go up. Yeah, go up and then try to test it out. How you can test it? Just here you have to provide the path of your API. So if you'll go to your application and if you'll go to the test controller, here you can see this is what we have provided here. So just copy this out, paste it here, and then try to test. And here you can see executing function. Go to the details, and here you can see it says status 405 multi-value headers allow get. Okay, no issue. We'll try to see lambda handle. Okay, so method is post. Let me try to change it to get. Test it again. And here you can see we are getting the status code as 200, and if you'll go down in the body, you can see hello all. That is what we are returning here for this method, for this API, which is hello all. So this is working fine. We were not using the correct method, so we changed it out and it is working fine. Now if you want to test the other API which was already provided, which is ping, let me try to tell you. Let me try to test it. So here you can go to the test and then change it to the ping, and what you can do is you can again go and test it out. Now if you'll go here, you can see in the details it says 200, which is working fine, and you can see in the body it says pong and then hello world. If you'll go to your application again and then try to see this API, ping API, so its return type is map, which says pong as a key and the hello world as a value. So that is what it is returning here as well. So it is working fine. Okay. Now this is not the way to develop your application. So what we are going to do is, or this is not how user can interact with your API, right? So for that only we are going to develop a API gateway, and then the request coming from the user will come through the API gateway, and then it will route to the AWS Lambda function that we have created here. Okay, so we are good. Now I think we have to save something. Yeah, just save it, and I think it's look good. Nothing to change. So event is saved here and we are good. Now what I'm going to do is just simply going to create the AWS gateway. So let me try to open the new tab here. So I can do a duplication of it, and what you can do is you can search for the gateway here. So just search for gateway. You will find this API gateway. So you can see build, deploy and manage API. So you have to go to this API gateway tool and then you have to create API gateway. So just wait for that. So here you can see we have so many options available, like HTTP API gateway you can create, WebSocket API or REST API. So we are going to create the REST API. Okay, just click on build and then here you can see new API. You have to provide the API name. Let's say I'm going to provide as a test API. Just create this API and wait. So you can see your gateway is created, and in the resource you have to create a resource. Just click on it. You have to provide the resource path and then you have to provide the resource name. So from where you can provide this resource name. So you have to go to your application again, and if you'll go to your handler or not handler, here you have the template.yml file. So you have to go there. If you go down, you can see that the path provided here is proxy plus. That means anything going to any request or any user request which is coming to the gateway will be routed to this proxy plus, and this proxy plus is nothing but it is our Lambda function where all the APIs are. So just copy this out and just paste it there in the resource name and just create the resource. Okay, so resource is created. Now the thing that we have to do is we have to create a method to hit our API. So just create method, and here you can see select the method type. You can select any. Go to the Lambda, like integration type should be Lambda proxy, and here you have to choose the Lambda function that you have created, which is test one. Now go down and everything look good. Just create this method, and you can see it is created. Now if you just you can see redeploy your API for the update to take effect. Okay, redeploy your API for the update to take effect. Okay, nice. So we'll see. Now if we'll go down here, you can see these are the details related to the gateway that we have created. We have now here what you can do is you can do a deploy app API. Okay, so just wait for that. Let me try to click here. You have to choose the stage name. So you can choose a new stage name. Let's say the stage name would be like environment name, like dev, test, QA, or product. Anything you can choose. So let me try to use the dev here, or you can also choose, let's say, test. Just deploy, and here you can see you have the URL handy which you can use to hit your API. So just copy this out, open this test, open this proxy and all. Here you can see so many APIs are available. Just click on this, or what you can do is go to the test again. Okay. So this is like, these are the APIs available that you can hit from the gateway. Now I have copied the base URL of our API. Okay. Where our API like from where you can or the user can hit the APIs. So this is the base URL which is provided by the cloud. Okay. And this is what we can use to hit our APIs. Now go to the browser again, open a new tab, and this is it. Now this is the base URL. Now if you're going to hit your API, what is the API name? So go to the test controller, and test is our API name. So just append the test here and then hit it out. Just wait for a few seconds, and here you can see in the response we are getting the hello all. Okay. If you want to test the ping controller, what you can do is you can append the ping here and then test it. And here you can see in the response you are getting a map which says Pong as a key and hello world as a value. So this API is working fine. We have successfully deployed our application on the AWS Lambda, and through the API gateway we also connected that AWS Lambda, and we are able to hit the APIs. Okay, so everything is working fine, and this is how you can do a serverless deployment. So you see that we don't have to manage anything related to the server here. What we have to do is we have to simply create a Lambda function and simply create a gateway, connect them, and then you are good to go. You don't have to manage anything related to the server here. Okay, so this is how you can do a serverless deployment, or this is how you can deploy your Spring Boot application on the server. Less involvement like AWS Lambda. So this is about the video, guys. If you like the video, please hit the like button and please subscribe the channel for more such content.